What's up, guys? It's Jiqui here. Today I'm going to be breaking down some dubstep slash rhythm sound design in Serum. Um, I'm going to kind of go over what I do in a typical sound design session where I'll start with like an initial patch and then make like 5 or 6 variations of the patch using like different post processing, different wavetables and whatnot, just to kind of keep this sound in. So that also helps with like call and response, because you're kind of keeping the same base patch, but you're just changing things in it. So it's still gonna kind of have that, but it's gonna sound different. Show you guys how I go about doing that. Okay, so I've prepared excuse me, break down the patches in it and like how you can resample them, save them to Ableton. So play this loop for you so you can hear how it sounds. Yeah. A lot of these are just variations of the same patch throughout, and kind of show you like to make those variations. So let's start with this guy right here. So it sounds like this. But yeah, so it's like a really basic patch. It's just like a basic shapes and a saw wave, with the frequency modulation. There's like really not much to it. When I get into post processing, you'll see how the post processing really affects the sound. But for getting those like vowel-y rhythm sounds using like a high notch filter or like a high pass filter or bandpass filter is usually like what you want to be doing. So like without this filter, it still sounds good, but you can hear with it, it's got like more vowel-y character to it, and having like your cutoff around like this area and having your frequency basically in the opposite, it's gonna like really help give you that sound. And I like to boost the resonance just a little bit, because then it's gonna make a little bit more of a peak, and again it's gonna help with the giving the sound more of a vowel. And then yeah, there's not really any post-processing done inside Serum. Just a little bit of distortion. The EQ actually doesn't even really need to be on. Then the hyperdimension, which is just making the sound like a little bit wider. But yeah, and then so what I have here for the LFO is this LFO right here is modulating the sync. So if I play this sound, you can see that the sync really gives the sound more character. So adding like a second LFO and applying it to things like your sync or your FM, those things are going to help give the sound, going to help give the sound a lot more character. So this LFO I have on the sync, and this one I have on the FM. You can do it both in the same though. But yeah, so and then this macro as well is just applied to the LFOs, the rate. But yeah, if I take this LFO, so you can hear that moving the LFO into different positions, and adjusting the sync knob is basically making different variations of the sound. And then as well, I have an LFO on the D2 and on the unison, which is helping as well with giving the sound like that valley character. So so you can just see that moving that to different places gives it that character. And then as well, you can play around with like your octaves on your oscillator as well. So if I turn this down, that's also where a lot of the character in this sound is coming from. And then another important thing is the sub. You can hear that without the sub, it's losing a lot of its power. You can hear like that almost bit crushed noise on the sound. That's coming basically from all the compression and saturation in my post-processing. And the sub with the sub and Serum, that's like how you get that like bit crushed high-pitched noise on the sound. So I'll break down a little bit of the post-processing for this sound. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just corpus, which is essentially a resonator. It has a bunch of different presets. I find that pipe and tube are usually the best for like dubstep basses, but you can get cool results with these other ones. But I like to have a very short decay, only a little bit of dry wet, and then it has a built-in LFO as well, which is really cool. It has like all your basic shapes, and it has a rate knob as well, obviously, so you can control the rate. So if I turn the LFO off for this sound, and then we play it here, you can hear it completely changes the character of the sound. And then without the corpus entirely, it's not a bad sound, but the corpus is just making it so much better. It also really helps with widening your sound as well, especially the LFO. And I also like that it has a tune knob, so you can actually just tune it right to the key of whatever you're writing in. But yeah, followed by, I'm just going to group these right now. Followed by the corpus, I basically have 3 OTTs. And then on the last OTT, I actually boosted the output of the high band because after using that much compression, the sound is just lacking so much high end that just boosting the high band on the OTT really helps brighten the high end. I also sometimes will use like multi-band saturation to help bring that high end out. Or you can even use an EQ boost sometimes. But after using a lot of compression like this, I wouldn't recommend using an EQ boost just because the frequencies could get very piercing. And then I had a gate on. So basically what the gate was doing is basically I had it set before this video. You sidechain the sound into itself and then adjust the threshold and the gain on the gate. And then basically it will cut all of that feedback out that you get from using like a ton of OTT and saturation. So basically it just cuts the signal off after the MIDI note stops playing. And then I have a saturator here, which is just like an analog clip and with the drive boosted. And then this is the washout rack that I was covering in my previous video that basically I will use for like reverb throws to fill in space, but it's not really doing anything right now. But yeah, that's like pretty much it. It's super, super basic. But it's just like using the sync and the FM is what's going to give you those characters. So I pretty much, these are all based off of the same patch. But yeah, so this second patch is it's just a slight variation of the first patch. Same effects, just different LFO shape, and the FM and the sync are a little different. And then you get this sound. So it's pretty straightforward. Same thing with this guy. It's got the same shape as the first one, actually. Again, just as a variation with the FM and the sync. This bass right here is actually a pretty cool one. So without the post-processing in this guy, it sounds like this. It's basically nothing. This is actually a different patch that has a little bit more stuff going on in it. I can't remember where this patch was from. It was from a while ago, but yeah, it's got like some different wavetables and stuff, but the LFO is very short, and it's like a very sharp peak. So like if I adjust this like this, it's sounds like you could almost use that as like more of like a wompy kind of bass, but I wanted to try and make something that sounded like super over compressed and like metallic-y. So the sub is also doing a lot of work in this too. So you still have that sound, but with the sub, it's giving it that sound. But it's pretty like similar layout. Again, it's got like your FM with the LFO on it, sync, hyperdimension, distortion, EQ. This one just has a little dip right here, and then the Serum OTT, and then Phalanger with just mixed in slightly. But yeah, this patch is really cool. Just again, it's like the corpus. Without the corpus, it doesn't sound bad, I guess, but with the corpus, you have that like metallic-y sound. I use corpus on pretty much every single bass that I make because it's just so good. This one, I have the settings slightly different. I turned the actual gain down on the corpus and had a bit of a longer decay, because without the longer decay, you can hear like that little it just has like a little more metallic timbre to it. And on this guy I added a phaser as well, which is just giving the sound a little more character. And then I have like the 3 OTTs, again, same settings. And then the only thing different on this one is I have the ozone stereo imager on it, and basically I'm just making the sound a little more mono, because it's very stereo and I wanted it to sit a little more in the center of the mix. But yeah, so I'm gonna try and make one of these type of patches from scratch, and I'm actually going to use the exact same processing that I use for these other sounds on this sound. And a lot of people might say it's bad to work into your processing chain, which it can and it can't be, but I kind of like to just know how my sound is going to be sounding.
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer in every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
Be sounding as I'm going through it. So we'll see what we can get out of this. So we're gonna go with basic shapes, do something like this. So we've got, I made a little pattern here. oops, put that right here. We'll use a high notch filter. Actually, we can use a high pass filter. They're pretty similar. Do it like this. Put it on the frequency. Yeah. Turn on that FM. Give this some sync. So you can already hear it's like kind of getting that sound. Turn the unison up. We'll put the first oscillator all the way up. I usually like to do that. Turn the random phase all the way down. So already we're getting that like really crunchy sound. And then we'll use this LFO as our second modulator. Yeah, so we'll just keep those right about there for now. And we can even add this one like on the D-tune too. Yeah, do a little bit of post-processing in Serum. Do it maybe like this. Yeah, we can just do it. Just mix this in slightly. We use an EQ, using like a notch again to give it a little more character. Yeah, so you can hear without the EQ, it makes a big difference. We can even try adding like a high pass filter as well. Now we'll just keep it like this. And then I'm not going to use the compressor that's built into Serum just because it's already like really compressed with the post-processing. But we'll add some tube distortion. And we'll add the sub. Just do it like this. And sometimes you can add like some white noise too, to make it hit a lot harder. Yeah, we'll just keep that like that. But yeah, just playing around with like the different wavetables is gonna give you some cool results. I just like to use like the basic wavetables because you can get really good sounds out of those. We can try adding a filter on here without messing the sound up too much. Maybe a combs filter. So this is where the gate would come in handy. If we just actually group all of these together, and then so what I would do is set the sidechain input to, this is 63 Serum, so we'll set it to 63 Serum, and then you're gonna set it to the chain, and then yeah, and then just like play around with the gain and the threshold until you're not getting any of that nasty feedback. Yeah, so you can hear with the gate, it's a lot cleaner. This is like a really good technique that I use like all the time. I would definitely recommend like doing this if you're going to be using a lot of crazy post-processing or you're getting a lot of nasty feedback. from any like of the OTTs that you're using. But yeah, so yeah, and then we can try like playing around with the shape of this. Yeah, so then if we just like play this in context, let me just mute these guys. It's a super basic pattern, but obviously like you have the freedom to play around with it however you want. Yeah. So that's like pretty much it for actual sound design. And then you can add like other plugins too. Like I really like the echo. I kind of went over the echo in the last video that I did, but I'll kind of touch over it again. It's really cool because you have like a lot of customization with this. They give your stereo knob here, output, obviously dry wet, reverb, and the feedback actually goes like all the way to 150%. Input knob, you have modulation here as well. It's just really dope. But for a bass like this, I would set like a really short time, like 65, 70 milliseconds. Maybe turn the feedback up just like a little bit. Bring the input down maybe like 2 decibels. And then you could make it like a little more mono as well. Like playing around with this knob, like you could get some really cool results like by just like manipulating the stereo field with the delay. But just using like the dry wet knob, just like making a little throw with it like this. Actually, we could maybe make it like a little higher. Just like that. And then we'll copy paste this on these other notes, and then you get something like this. Like it gives you like that really cool delay effect, and then like in context. So yeah, it's just like really cool like that. And I said I was going to touch on resampling as well. What I always do is like I would take these basses and then set a new channel, set it to resampling, solo the bass you want to resample, arm it so that you can record it, and then just record. And then so now you have your bass, and then if you just hit show in browser, it'll show you like where it is in your project, and then you can just like literally drag it and add it to whatever folder you want. So if you have like your bass renders folder, then you can just drag it right in there and it will be saved. So yeah, that's basically it. If you guys have like any questions or anything, don't hesitate to hit me up on Facebook or my email. I feel like sometimes I'm not the best at vocalizing what I'm trying to say, but if you guys have any questions, please ask me. So thanks guys, and I will see you.